like canvas.
Roberto.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Welcome everybody to another episode of Pod from the Crypt. I'm Chris Guzzo with my co-host Rob Pasercia and Anthony Balzano. What's up, boys?
Yo.
How you doing?
Hey. All right. In today's episode called Modify Without Consent, we are going to talk about body transformation horror. Ladies and gentlemen, the films that we have lined up for you, they take this genre to an entirely other level. I promise you. We are going to talk about Eyes Without a Face, The Skin I Live In, Human Centipede, and of course, Tusk. But we're not going to do it alone because we have a very special guest with us today to dissect all these crazy movies. Devin Shepherd, welcome to the show. How you doing, Devin?
Hey guys, so happy to be here.
It's awesome.
Hey, Doug.
I just want to let all the fans out there know that Devin is the co-founder of the woman in genre media company known as Wild Obscura, and she is the director of the horror fiction podcast Cryptids. You guys got to check that out. We're going to put that in the link below in the description. It's an awesome podcast. She has also worked on several short and feature horror films, including Attention, Kaya, The Taxidermist, Blind Spot, and one of my favorite movies, The ABCs of Death 2, the sequel. It's a friggin' awesome movie. All right, so without further ado, Rob, Anthony, Devin, are you ready to tackle these jaw-dropping films that have made certain people vomit or pretty much walk out of the theaters?
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. All right, so we're going to kick it off with our first movie. It's called Eyes Without a Face. It was made in 1960. I'm going to butcher everybody's name tonight because they're either French directors, Spanish directors, German directors. This director of Eyes Without a Face is directed by Jorge Franju. It is a French film. I'm going to kick it right off to Rob. I want to hear your thoughts about this crazy movie. And I want to just say one thing before anything. This movie does not seem like a movie that was made in 1960. Let me tell you.
Right?
No.
Oh, my God. Dude, did you know that when this movie premiered, 7 people fainted in the audience?
Holy shit.
And they had to be carried out of the theater. It premiered in the, I'm going to butcher these names, Edinburgh Film Festival. And that's when Jorge Franu, is that how you say his name? He's quoted as saying, "Now I know why these Scotsmen wear skirts."
I heard that too.
Dude, can we talk about this movie without just mentioning that facelift scene? That still holds up by today, and it's disgusting. I loved it. Yo, Devin, I could tell from your reaction. What'd you think?
That was my favorite part because I agree. It totally holds up. It's done so well. I believed every second of it. The whole time I'm like this. Like, are we ever going to see the muscles?
God. Hey, Anthony, what you got there, man? I think he has the face from the movie. He's about to show us. He's getting it ready. Oh my God. You know, that's gross. It's even grosser in 1960. That's amazing, man.
I forgot to tell
dude.
everybody the quick synopsis of this movie, just in case you've never seen it before. It's about a surgeon that causes an accident which actually leaves his daughter burned. Her face is all burned and disfigured. And then he basically goes to extremes to get her a new face. The score in this movie is absolutely fantastic.
Dude,
you
it's
remember at the
bonkers
beginning,
as
the
hell.
opening, that sound, that song?
It's bonkers. You like it? I don't know.
Oh my God, I do.
Dude, that circusy music, man. I couldn't
that
get out of my head for like
right?
2 hours.
Was that
What?
what it was? It was like a circus theme, right?
It's just circus music, the whole thing.
Oh,
It was weird that they picked that, but it worked.
You think? Yeah, it grew on me. It definitely
It's very
did.
weird. It was
Huh?
when we finally see what's her name, Christiane, and
Yeah.
she's
Christina
moving
or
around.
Christiane? Yeah.
Yeah, the French Christine. She moves around and she's so mimey, and then like, all the circus music is happening. It really felt like we were in some black and white circus for a moment.
Didn't it, especially towards the end of the film when she walks out into like the forest kind of, she doesn't move like a real person. The whole film she's on display.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
our second
Yeah.
movie, that becomes an even bigger theme. So, Anthony, what do you think of that mask, man? Wasn't that mask amazing? That featureless white mask?
It definitely was super simple what they put together, and it was very effective. It was just so fucking creepy every time you looked at her.
Yeah, yeah. And you know who else liked it? Mike Myers.
John Carpenter, right? I heard
Yeah.
that they wanted to use, that was the original mask that they were going to use in Halloween.
I heard
Yeah.
the same thing. They wanted to. So I think what they did is, I forget, they got a famous person's face mask and they just painted it white.
William Shatner.
Yeah, William
Yes.
Shatner.
Oh, you guys are
Yeah.
amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, John Carpenter just decided that he didn't want to go that route. He wanted to be original.
Yeah, which I think was the right decision. But I don't know, man. I think this mask is almost scarier than Michael Myers.
It
Well,
is.
I can't agree with that.
It has no kind of expression to it. This man. I know
Well-
that Michael Myers didn't, but this really had no kind of like facial features, which was like very jarring. I can't. Again, this was made in 1960. This did not feel like a contemporary 1960 film. Even the acting in it, the doctor, I felt extremely sympathetic for his character. It wasn't that kind of like, hey, how you doing here? Hi, it's me. Okay, I'll see you later. Gonna read the paper. You know,
Yeah.
kind of like 60s vibes. It was really compelling.
Yeah, he wasn't even like a Vinnie Price, like over the top type at all, you know.
No.
He was no Howard Howe, like in Tusk. He was not that guy. He was like a real guy that you felt bad for, even though he was crazy as hell. And those women he was kidnapping were not having nice days.
Like I really felt that scene when he was cutting her open with the scalpel and he was like sweating profusely, and even the way the skin was coming off that's what really caught my attention since I do special effects.
Yeah.
And seeing that in 1960, the way they made it look so real that he was really cutting it, and the way the skin was moving off her face was really good. How they did that.
Can I
Yeah,
ask you a
yeah.
question, Anthony?
What
when I
happened?
watched when I watched the movie in that particular part, I noticed that when they remove her skin, it's basically no makeup is done when it's supposed to look like she has no face. It looks
Right,
like
yeah.
there's just like blood covered over a regular face. There's
Yeah,
nothing
that was the bad part about it. But I feel like they probably just didn't have what they needed at that time.
right.
Yeah,
But were they
yeah.
allowed to show it? That's what I wonder.
No, I think that was actually just a technical failing, right, Anthony?
Yeah,
at the
like,
time period.
Like it's not like they had the Hellraiser time where they could have made it look
Right.
like, you know, the way it was.
Yeah, I think one of the things this film was so progressive for its makeup at the time. Even the scenes where the face fails and she's
Oh,
what is it called?
yeah.
Necrotizing.
All right.
Devin, do you know what's that medical term?
Like it's decaying already?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
decaying, which is gross. And man,
It was
what did
so-
you guys think of the ending with the dogs? I
Before
love
you
that.
get to the ending, to
Okay.
your point, what you're saying, that scene, I love how they did that in 1960, where they just kind of showed different pictures and like overlapped it and showing the decaying of each week. It said like week 1, then 9 days, and then 12 days, and each picture showed her face like get worse and worse. And
Yeah, and since it was like a medical journal of the passing of times, it didn't have this like hokey effect like you'd see in the original Wolfman, where they did something very similar with this shot and then that shot with fade-ins.
right.
Since it was showing the daily progression, it made it much more clinical and sterilized and
Mhm.
realistic.
That's where I got really confused because I felt like that was the only part where they broke away from the POV to go totally into the doctor's world and show it as a medical journal, right?
Yeah.
It was such a
Wait.
strange moment where it just switches over into kind of a different movie for a minute.
It is kind of disjointed at times, this film. How do you guys feel like the pacing held up? That was probably my biggest gripe with the film. Was the first half had a lot of exposition, and there were scenes where, I mean, at the time it was acceptable to just have a scene go on for a few beats longer than it would in today's time. Did that bother you?
I thought it was really cool that we stuck with the first victim for so long. I was kind of thinking that she was going to make it out of there in a way. And I was a little more shocked I was so shocked when they did this sleight of hand thing, which I think they redo in The Skin I Live In, where he pours her a drink and says, "Look over here," and then comes around and grabs her. I was totally shocked that she gets taken in that moment.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because
I love that, like,
so long.
60s acting too, where as soon as he touches her with the glove, she's just instantly out. You know, that is not how chloroform works.
What about those screams in a couple of those scenes? When she's about to be like chloroformed, she screams, or when she's about to be operated on, she screams, and even when they throw the rag in the fire goes up. There's just like these cool scenes. Devin, I wanted to ask you. I got a little confused in this movie. The girl in the beginning that they show, the woman with the pearls is driving. She's dead in the back of the car. Is that the woman that they took her face off, or is that the woman that they used to make it look like Christina was dead? Were they like two separate women, or it was just one woman and they were going back and forth? I kind of got confused in that part.
Yeah, I think it was the same woman, which kind of shows their genius right up front, right? That they use this person's face and they're like, oh, at the same time, we can use her body to fool the police that Christiane is actually dead.
Yeah. So did you guys notice that before they kidnapped the second victim, he's like, this time maybe I'll remove the face in one piece instead of, what did he do, in 4 pieces before? Come on,
Yeah,
how do you think that would work?
Yeah, I didn't understand like why that even was like a scene, why he had to say that. Because logically, when you think about it, why would you do it in separate pieces? Because now, what, you're going to have all these like scars from sewing all these pieces together?
Right. I was just thinking of Frank's face on the ground in Hellraiser and just like trying to put that together on my own face. Like, that would never work.
I was so confused because, the assistant, I don't remember her name, but she wears the pearls to cover her scar, right?
Right.
So if that procedure that he did to her was so successful, where he cut it down to here, why would he not do that also to Christiane?
Well, it's not really clear what procedure he did on her, is it?
Fair.
Yeah, so I don't know if he did a full face transplant. My assumption is that at the time I should have looked this up. At the time of this movie, they hadn't done any face transplants, which I don't think they've done until the late 90s, right? Have they even done face transplants?
You're the doctor, Rob. Oh, I don't know. You tell us.
You know, I'm a proctologist. I'm a waist down kind of guy.
Yeah, I guess so. You really are. What kind of bothered me, and I think it's like 20 minutes into the movie, maybe 30, where the woman with the pearls brings the soon-to-be victim into the house, and if you see that the shots that they they switch from one over the shoulder to the other, it looks like in one shot it's daytime, and then when it goes to the house, it's nighttime, which like kind of bothered me. I don't know if it was like meant for artistic like reason or maybe it was darker but it just looked weird.
But wasn't the movie in black and white?
Yeah, but you could see that
Did you hear birds chirping? Did you hear birds chirping? Was that what it was?
Yeah, I heard birds chirp. I heard the air condition. That's what it was.
So I'm wondering, Chris, what do you think people feel about the colored version of this film in our next film?
Talking about The Skin I Live In.
That's right.
With, Antonio Banderas, made in 2011. Ooh, I'm gonna say this name. I'm gonna butcher it, so forgive me if I do, because this guy's a great director. His name is Pedro Almodovar. Okay, and this movie is about a brilliant plastic surgeon named Robert. He's haunted by his past tragedies, creates a type of synthetic skin that withstands any kind of damage, and his guinea pig, a mysterious and volatile woman who holds the key to his obsession. So this movie left me with an impression. And this movie is beautifully shot. They have this production design, and the cinematography is like everything is so clean, and the whole frame is like so clear and crisp. It kind of reminds me of, you ever see The Dentist? How everything is like so clean and shiny and perfect. You ever see that movie? I shouldn't compare this movie to that.
Photography to The Dentist.
I love this movie. They both have the same thing though, where it's very clean before the second half when it gets like really dirty. And
maybe
I'll go ahead. Tell me what you think of this movie, man.
I love the cinematography in this movie. I've actually heard one of the common criticisms is that it's over symbolic. If you'll notice in this film, the idea of a woman on display is really shown a whole lot, particularly a headless woman, which is an image we see over and over and over again. One of the scenes that comes to mind is when the guy who's kidnapped, and I really don't want to spoil the end of this movie. I want to
spoil it.
No, we can't. All right, major spoiler alert.
We'll put it in the description. It's a spoiler.
Major spoiler alert. Major, like flashing letters. When this guy's standing on a bucket and he goes to see where his manhood used to be.
What's his name, Rob? Vincente?
I forget his name. He becomes Vera. He becomes Vera. When Vera gets up on the bucket before she's Vera, when she's Vincente, he looks in the mirror and you see him headless, when now he's missing his vital masculine body part.
He's not.
And that's a really great shot.
What do you mean he's headless?
What?
What do you mean headless?
When you say headless, do you mean his penis?
Is that
no? He's looking in a mirror, and in the frame, the mirror is cutting off his head because of the way his reflection is doing. His from the neck down is reflecting, so his head's cut off. And he works on models in his fabric shop where they do clothing. There's a lot of headless mannequins in there that he's playing with. And also Antonio Banderas' character, Robert, is operating or practicing skin grafting on a headless mannequin woman that he has all marked up and whatnot.
Can I just reflect on that scene real quick?
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely enjoyed this movie. It definitely had some things I disliked about it. Like for instance, that scene. Now, you're a man born into this world. And what would you say he was, in his young 20s?
If that.
Okay. He just lost his penis. And I felt like he didn't really have a major reaction. Now, me personally, I'd fucking lose my mind, and I'd probably think about wanting to kill myself. Because that's your manhood, and you're a man, and now you have no penis. I just felt like his reaction was just blah about it.
He cut off a bunch of dresses instead. That's what he did.
Well, Vera cut her neck. Remember in the one scene when she's running around with her face.
That's like afterwards. I agree with you, man. Like it's not like a reaction of like it. But you know what? At the same time, that framing, the way they did it, and him looking like, I just like it encapsulated the sadness. And like I feel like in that scene, less was more. And like we already know what he's going through, and it was perfectly done because there was a mix between like shock, sadness, and like what's next. I kind of just felt all these emotions from not seeing him tear or cry, just making him like looking into this mirror. Kind of felt like I was looking in the mirror with him.
I agree, because he seemed like almost a canvas of himself, like a woman on display in that point, and we had to project our own feelings onto him. And I thought his reaction was realistic, considering how meek the character was. Now, I want to know what Devin has to feel about this, considering it has to be slightly different for you.
No, I think everything that you're saying is really interesting. I do agree that the stronger reaction was less of a reaction. But what I keep coming back to in this movie is whether or not this character is transgender. I don't know what pronoun to use because I am so confused with their own gender identity throughout the film. But Vincente constantly says, I'm a weird person. I don't feel like myself. Like, I'm different from everybody. And then when he goes into transition to Vera, he does seem more comfortable, weirdly enough, in his skin at that point. But then at the end, he constantly says, I'm not a woman. So I'm very lost on what the director's trying to say about transgender people in this film. And I just watched Sleepaway Camp too, so I'm constantly comparing it back to that. I'm like, how do these characters reflect on themselves having like their gender changed without their consent?
Well, it seems like it's definitely more sympathetic than Sleepaway Camp, which a lot of people would think kind of botched the issue. Is it fair to even call Vera a woman? I mean,
technically she was, and to go to your point, Devin, you said something like really interesting. When I finished the film, I really felt this movie, the director purposely made a lot of things ambiguous, which is really why I actually love this film. I love films that don't spell it out for you. They kind of make you think. And a lot of times in American horror, it's straight to the point. You need the kills, and like this is a Spanish horror, and it kind of made you think. It even when the whole rape scene takes place when Robert's. So if anybody doesn't know, Robert's daughter is supposedly raped by Vincente, but he doesn't remember because he did a lot of drugs. Vincente doesn't remember if he did it or not. Robert thinks Vincente did it, but he doesn't know that he actually did it or not. He just has high suspects it. And
but the daughter thinks Antonio did it.
Right, Antonio Banderas, who plays Robert the doctor in it.
Yes.
But I agree, you're right, and it actually causes her suicide, and that's like another great like character arc for Robert is that he could kind of instead of like it transitioned, right? So he wanted to like set out to take revenge on this guy, but then his daughter kills herself, so he even how could I explain it? It goes from like one motive to the other motive. Does that make sense? In an ambiguous way, and like he's really not like sure that this guy killed her, and he still like does, and then he still goes along with it anyway because she kills herself, and he's so angry, and he needs some kind of retribution.
At no point in this movie do we see, maybe with Antonio and Vera, but the guys are always just like unzipping and sticking it in and like never fully undressing at any point. I'm like, damn, these people move so quickly. That was like one thing I definitely realized. There's no romance, so like this is just straight up rape because at no point is this girl feeling good about anything.
Yeah, exactly. There's a problem with treating women like objects that is a big theme within this film. And Vera switches gears when she again, with the pronoun, I'm going to say he, because I think he considers himself a man. That's why he draws images of women on the wall with their head in the house. Because although he has the female body, his mind is elsewhere. So as Vera kind of seduces Robert, there's almost a flip of the script, and she objectifies him, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I've heard that critique.
Well, was it all like a trick the whole time? Did she suffer from some kind of like Stockholm syndrome? That's what I'm saying is like going back to like the ambiguity, I said that wrong, of the film is like you really don't know what her motives are the entire time, which that's why I love this movie. Was it a plan for 6 years that she was going to seek revenge and one day be Vincente again? Or was it like an opportunity after 6 years that she's let out finally and she's freed throughout the house and she knows that the gun is downstairs and she seizes that opportunity and to get out and be free? I love that the movie really stressed that I can't say the word. Ambiguity. That's it.
There it is.
Chris, this is actually what I wanted to talk about. This was my biggest pet peeve of the movie. I enjoyed the movie, but this is what just was like pissing me off about the film. I'm like, if you're a man and you get a transgender operation without your consent, I just feel like, I don't know, I know me personally, I'm going to do whatever I can and any chance I get immediately to fucking probably kill this dude and escape. You're telling me 6 years later, this guy was just fucking living this life, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, you know what? I want my life back. Let me fucking get this gun, shoot him, and then leave. It doesn't fucking make sense.
I don't know. Maybe because I have a different mindset, and like I know I'm going far with this, but like once your piece of douche is chopped off, and you have to live in this woman's body, and you have no other choice, and you're not gonna kill yourself, do you learn to accept it and be?
I mean, if you're not gonna kill yourself, I'm gonna have to learn to accept it, and then I guess I'll be a lesbian because I still like women.
I want to ask all you guys, because there are, like we were saying, there are graphic rape scenes in this movie. Do you think that it was necessary, and do you think that they were done in good taste? And as far as like pushing the plot forward, I'll ask Devin first.
Yeah, I mean, the rape scenes were definitely the most horrifying piece of this film for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure I had a much different experience watching this movie than you guys did. Those are the scenes that leave with me as terrifying. And for me, it brought into this idea of like, oh, does Vincente deserve what is coming to him? And this idea of like, what is truly evil? Is what Vincente did was more evil, or is what Robert did more evil? And
Right.
there's constantly that question coming up with all the characters, I think. Especially, I think it was really interesting what the director did with the mother character. She's constantly like, I gave birth to these two horrible men. Am I to blame? Like, I'm the one that raised them. They're evil. Why do I feel like such a horrible person? And it constantly makes you question, like, okay, well, what's more evil, this or that?
Devin, I actually agree with you. I know I'm not a woman. It definitely affects you more watching those rape scenes. But I have a really strong stomach, and nothing really like gets to me. But the only thing in film that actually bothers me to watch is seeing rape scenes, and that's coming from a man. I hate watching it because I'm so like against that. Like I think it's like the biggest sin like that you can do as a person.
I agree.
I love that.
Yeah.
I realize I totally didn't answer your question, Chris. I'm so sorry.
No.
I feel like you did. I was wondering, did you feel sympathy for Vincente throughout the film? I mean, I did. I was sympathetic to him pretty much the entire time. And I was wondering if by them placing Vera in the forefront, if that causes us to be more sympathetic, because there is a while where we don't know Vincente is Vera. I mean, unless you're My Girlfriend Decky and you figure the movie out in 10 minutes, which was amazing. She called the ending immediately. Wow. And I remember I didn't call the ending till the very end. Maybe I'm dumb. Did you guys?
About an hour and 15 minutes into the movie is the reveal. So like the last 40 minutes, I kind of like that too about the movie, that first of all, it doesn't really go into order. They go like, they started out like in the present and flashback, and then they do another flashback. And then in about an hour and 15 minutes, you find out that Vera was this man, Vincente. You see Antonio Banderas shaving him and like getting him prepped for the operation, and then obviously giving him the sex change. And I love that those last 40 minutes are actually dramatic. And now you know the twist. You know that this man was against his will transformed into a woman, and you get to like spend the last 40 minutes with this new woman, like, and what she's doing in her surroundings. And you know, there's an amazing scene where they give her makeup and pencil. What is it for your eyes? Shadow pencil or whatever, and she denies the makeup because it's showing at first he denies being a woman, and he uses it to like try to write, and he's an artist and he's trying to write on the wall, and then he figures out the date and he's like always writing on the date. And like another scene, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, is like he's ripping up all the clothes that is given to him. So he's being rebellion, and he's not accepting being a woman at first. So like I could really sympathize. It's such a sad movie, you know.
It is.
And I want to mention too, like one of the scariest scenes I've ever seen, ever in any movie, is when the daughter is outside singing this song, and the mother gets out of her bed and her face is burnt, and she looks down to the daughter, and the daughter like sees her and like gets scared.
That's the scariest scene in a movie. Are you kidding?
I don't care.
I thought that scene was funny. I thought it was kind of one of the more badly done parts of the movie.
Another doctor.
Oh man, I thought all the makeup was great except for the burnt up face of the wife. I didn't think that was very good.
That scared the shit out of me. It just did.
What do you think, Devin? You were about to say.
Oh no, I think I agree with Rob that like it didn't scare me, but now through
Two for Rob. You're done.
But I think the sympathy there is that that's the moment where a woman born a woman is no longer a woman. Mm-hmm. That she's, you know, this beautiful wife and mother, and she's going to tend to her daughter, and then she sees that she's a monster and she can never be what she thought she was, and she can't be the epitome of like what she thinks a woman is.
Yeah, there's a constant theme in this film about whether or not accepting the surrogate is good or not and healthy. For instance, Robert's mother accepts him as almost a surrogate son, and he accepts her as almost a surrogate mother. Although there is the biological link, it is not really known, at least to half the party. And then she also like denies her tiger son, whose name I forget, but he's the tiger in the film. And then also Vera has to accept her surrogate body, right? And one of the issues, and Robert accepts his surrogate wife, who's Vera, who he formed after his wife, and he accepts her. And there seems to be a kind of like enlightening feeling that comes from this acceptance. Even if it is twisted and you get your comeuppings, the karma, if you don't accept this surrogate, is like going to get you in the end, which is what happened to his wife. She couldn't accept her new form, her surrogate body, so she denied it, violently.
I want to let you guys know, and then we're going to move on, and I want to compare the movies, that this movie, the screenplay, the director was working on it for about 10 years. So there was a lot of time and effort into this screenplay. It was based off of a book called Tarantula by Thierry Jonquet. I hope I'm not butchering that name. But that like actually kind of makes me question if this movie was like kind of not a ripoff, but like heavily influenced by The Eyes Without a Face. I know like it kind of goes in a separate direction, but it's a very similar concept about a surgeon who wants to like put a different face on somebody or a different, in this case, in The Skin I Live In, a different body part. What do you think?
Well, do you think it was a ripoff of Face Off?
No.
I'm kidding. No, I don't think it was a ripoff. I think it was heavily influenced, but I also think it's a much better movie than Eyes Without a Face. And I'm wondering what you guys think. Yeah, this is, I think, one of my favorite movies. I think it's my favorite movie in this subgenre of medical horror body modification.
Devin, what do you think?
Yes. I'm trying to remember the question. I'm sorry. I got so wrapped up in the idea. Yeah. Outside of the obvious, like, mask recreating in The Skin I Live In, the mask recreation from Eyes Without a Face, it feels like they're totally different movies. I think they say a lot of the same things, in terms of creator and creation and women and beauty, but I think that The Skin I Live In just takes it into a way more modern, way further place.
Okay. Which one do you like more?
Oh, The Skin I Live In keeps bugging me. I literally dreamt about it last night and got nightmares.
Yeah.
It's been a while since the movie's done that.
Okay. Anthony?
I feel like it's the same situation as The Wicker Man and Midsommar.
Yeah.
That it takes elements, but then it goes in a different route.
Yeah. Which one do you like better?
Eyes Without a Face.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Cool. How about you, Chris?
Man, it's hard. Like you said, they're both two different movies. I did like The Skin I Live In until I recently saw Eyes Without a Face. I love like that original 1960 movie, and that movie is actually called Dr. Faustus, The Horror Chamber of Dr. Faustus, when it was put into American theaters.
Well, I'm really glad they changed the title back to the original.
They cut out the scene too in that movie when the doctor goes and visits the kid who's sick and he can't see the how many fingers he's holding up, because they just felt like American horror at the time felt like that was too sympathetic for an antagonist.
Yeah. I want to mention one particular shot in The Skin I Live In that I just think is one of the best frames I've ever seen in a film. And again, major spoilers alert. After Vera shoots Dr. Robert, and he's ass up, face down in the bed, and she's standing there with the gun because she just fucked him. That's one of my favorite scenes. Not even just scene, that's my favorite frame, I think.
Out of all the amazing frames in this movie, you choose that one?
Have you seen that frame? It is a beautiful frame. It's a wide shot. I'll send it to you. I screenshot it.
Well, you are the proctologist, and that's a perfect segue into our next sick film.
Wait, hold on, Chris.
What?
That shit that I was saying before, like with the whole situation about like the 6-year span, that was pretty much like the whole thing of pretty much probably why I went with Eyes Without a Face. That kind of killed it for me. That it just didn't make any sense to me.
What did?
The 6-year span living that way, it just killed it for me.
Yeah, there was a lot of melodrama in this film that I think turned some people off, but I think that's indicative of kind of the novellas.
Well, last note of what you're saying, actually, Rob, is that Pedro Almodovar, he kind of like shifted. So like the first week or two of shooting, Antonio Banderas was giving like this not generic, but like this crazy, unsympathetic scientist performance. And he was telling him like, you can't do that. This isn't that type of movie. And he wanted him to just be like a real person and get rid of all that shit. And that's I think he did a wonderful job as this sympathetic plastic surgeon. And
how good was he in this film? I think it's his best performance to date. I think it's his best performance in any film, and I don't think I'm alone in saying that.
I agree. Any other
Banderas?
Yeah, I mean, Decky liked Zorro better, but
Zorro.
That's fun. Do you guys have any other final thoughts of this movie before we move on?
Oh yeah, actually one more thing.
Yeah.
There was a scene when Antonio Banderas is talking to his mother about the whole situation with Vera, and she's like, "Don't you learn your lesson? You're gonna make this mistake again." I think that moment right there is what gave up the ending that she was gonna escape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, like this movie wasn't going for the twist. It had that was like another thing. It was just more of a melodrama, and like I said, a sad movie, and it worked that way.
Did you see the twist coming? I don't know if you guys answered that, because I didn't when I first saw it.
I didn't see it.
I did not.
Yeah, no, I didn't see it either.
Did that blow your mind? This was like an Old Boy like level twist to me. And I think I saw both those movies in the same week initially. So like my brains were just all over my apartment. I think I failed every test I was taking. I just couldn't concentrate on anything.